We are Andy and Teresa Bain, and we are the owners of ServPro Chesterfield and ServPro Tri-Cities and ServPro Newport News.
I'm Randy Miller. I'm ServPro Saginaw, Northwest Genesee County, Fenton, and Bay City. And I started in the system in the fall of '96. Actually opened my doors for business in 1997. So that's about 18 years now. I've been at this wonderful game of ServPro.
That's great. And what about you?
I'm Mike Snyder with ServPro of Saginaw, Bay City, Genesee County, Northwest Genesee County, and Fenton as well. And Randy and I became partners in 2000. So been with franchise almost 14 years.
There's so many ServPros with so many resources. You can rent, borrow, beg, share jobs, whatever you have to do with other ServPros. There's really no reason. I mean, you can get into commercial just by allying yourself with another ServPro and get into it very easily today. Not true 10, 15 years ago. I mean, it was a lot harder to get in 15 years ago because you had to have all those resources yourself. You know, when I first started, my nearest franchise was probably an hour and a half away, and they were probably smaller than myself, so they weren't going to be much help. But you know, today with the strength of the system, it's a whole lot easier to leverage the help of your fellow franchise.
If you get one, there's help just a phone call away. And there's so many of these franchises now that are experienced in large losses. I know you can find somebody close by.
Right.
Somebody
you're comfortable working
They'll
with.
be happy to drive out, fly out, whatever.
And I think it's important to establish a relationship with somebody before you get the job. So if you're thinking about getting into commercial, I think you should definitely reach out to somebody you think you'd be comfortable working with and establish that relationship with them prior to getting that large loss, so that when it does come in, you've already said, hey, this is how it's going to be handled. Here's, give them a call, and hopefully, it all pans out for you.
It goes to be careful of wishing for a project that's so big you can't handle. Because if you do that once to this adjuster that refers you that commercial loss, he probably won't be calling you back.
I'm talking about a good-sized commercial loss. You're going to bring in temp labor, and your crew chiefs are going to be supervisors, and you're going to produce a lot more that way. So you have to be able to pay your temp labor. I mean, you need some resources. Yeah. So really, if all you're doing is residential, then you really want to get into commercial, you need to partner up with somebody and do some commercial with somebody else before you start. I mean, you got to get some kind of revenue in there that you have a little cash to pay temps and pay rental things and pay all the expenses of the job until you get paid, because that's huge, because you can overextend yourself very quickly.
Yeah, I had a problem in the beginning letting go, because I felt like if I didn't have my hands on everything on a job, it wouldn't get done right. Teresa's had a hard time convincing me to let go a little bit and bring in some temp, not just temp labor, but temp supervisors.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's
incredible what a difference they can make on a job.
Yeah.
It really is.
And even if you don't have the equipment, call another ServPro in to help you out on a job, and having that equipment on a job in your territory. I could cite several examples of other franchises that have said, man, you guys came to town, you helped me on this job, and when you left, all of a sudden my phone started ringing for commercial work. And that's where the equipment and painting the buildings green with equipment dramatically helps the local franchise.
That's exactly what we tell people, is call right away. And back to not hesitating and service the commercial client. We always market the other franchises and say, call us, we'll get the equipment there. Market the equipment as if it's your own equipment. It's all marked ServPro, and of course when it's on site, it's very impressive to the adjuster, the client base. So that's the most important, is make sure that equipment gets on site right away.
Most recently was just during this polar vortex down in Adrian, Michigan, and the owner of the franchise there had said he's been marketing for years, telling everybody, I can do commercial, and he landed a very nice sized job and called us in because he was at capacity, and he said all of a sudden, he was like 2 days later, he started getting all these commercial calls, and these people saying, hey, you're doing a really nice job over there on that job, and he didn't tell them otherwise, nor should he, that, yeah, that's me over there, I'm doing that. I told you I can do commercial, and And same thing happened in Lansing when we did a hospital last year. So it always helps the local to have all that stuff there. I mean, business owners talk. And it doesn't have to be a big job with semis and all that stuff, just business owners talk, even if it's a small one.
A university had a fire in their art department, and they called the state, it was state finance school, so they called in 3 mitigation companies to bid on it. We came in at $212,000, and we thought we were way out of the ballpark, but as it turned out, the state, who notoriously takes the lowest bid, in the bid opening room, they were getting ready to award it to the smallest one, and they went and tapped, the guy said, okay, if there's no other questions, and we simply said, what standards are y'all going to use on the cleanliness? And it just so happened that the president of the university was sitting there almost bored with it all until we presented them with that question. And it was about 3 hours later that they came back and awarded the cleanup to us. And I mean, we were scared. I was scared to death. I was used to doing 3-bedroom brick ranchers, and this was a huge university. And we made a phone call to a franchise out in Ohio, because a big portion of this was duct cleaning. And they immediately sent, Ron Valega immediately sent his guy down, and we were able to produce a job with no problems at all. Now, once we did that, I felt so comfortable with the next one that we, unless we're just so short-handed, we just rolled with it ourselves.
If a shortage of labor is a problem, it goes back to how important it is to have a relationship with fellow franchises nearby and pull on them as much as possible. It's more impressive to have Serpro uniformed people on site and trained to make the job go smoother. It's always risky when you bring on temps. The appearance of the clothing, maybe it's not a uniform, and also their skill set. So if you need a lot of people just maybe to muck, nasty water or mud, what have you, a temp might be perfect for the job.
There are so many offices that are willing to help with whatever they can help with. I mean, I go for support to other offices for office information or, marketing information. So it's no different. We've never reached out to anybody that blew us off. Everybody's always given us their time, and I feel like we give a lot of time whenever somebody calls us. We're more than willing to talk to them and help them through whatever situation they're going through at that time.
Align with somebody that you're compatible with, that have the capacity to help you in a pinch, and don't be afraid of it, because once you get that mentor to walk you through a job or two of that size, you'll actually be able to expand and do a bigger one on your own. And we just see that happening all through the system, which is really encouraging for the growth of the system. And our commercial penetration, I know, is going to expand as a result of that.
We sent out a flyer to a lot of franchises within 3 or 4 hour radius of us, letting them know of the equipment and knowledge we have on large losses. And it just so happened that a franchise out of Raleigh, North Carolina, called, and his comment was, I've done some small commercial losses, but I've marketed to Duke University, UNC, NC State, and I'm afraid that if I'm going to get a call on one of these large losses, can I come up and visit your business and see what kind of equipment you have, which is perfect for us. And what it is, it's just the guy's planning ahead. He's wants to get into more larger commercial stuff, and he's going to come up and visit us tomorrow, actually. And I think that's cool. And it's cool for a franchise that is not comfortable with doing a large loss, is able to go visit somebody. Take a day out of your time to go visit and see ask questions, see what's available to them, and then, you know, if you need help producing that job or you need help pricing it, we'd be happy to come.
4 or 5 times a month, we'll get a call, whether it's equipment calcs, how to dry something, how to clean something. I mean, I think there's a whole host of people know that there's a resource to turn to, and you know, that's that way throughout the country. There's people that you can turn to for advice, and I would say that, you know, that's the mentorship program, and it's not that we've targeted a big brother and said, you know, we're gonna mentor this one franchise. I think it's all of them know to reach out and ask questions. Hey, I'm sure these guys have done it. Let's ask them. And sometimes it turns into some really nice jobs for them.